how do you make paperwork cool? You put someone on the desk with enough courage to deal with those massive, never-ending stacks of documents. You make sure that everyone knows they're a critical choke point in the fight for freedom. You also put Colonel Courage on the case. Let's talk about him. First, thanks for watching JLS Comics. Hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with all of our weekly content. And with that out of the way, let's jump right into our story. Cliff V. Mewett was born in Boston, Massachusetts. Now, there's actually two figures on the G.I. Joe team with the government name of Cliff Mewett. One is a Caucasian guy from Kentucky who uses the codename Airwave, and the other is a black Bostonian who we're talking about today. This has happened with a couple other figures as well, and it usually means that they're named after a Hasbro employee in some form or another, or the name is derived from one of Larry Hama's yearbooks. Cliff went to school in Boston, then graduated, and was commissioned to the United States Army where he earned the rank of colonel. He really carved out a name for himself guiding and instructing his NCO subordinates and supported units in a wide variety of areas including training and guidance with the NCO ES and NCO DP, and was responsible for the creation and preparation of communications and correspondence for his teams and ensuring that troops maintained appropriate dress, behavior, customs, and courtesy policies and regulations. Cliff became an expert with marks, the modern Army record-keeping system. I'm sure he knew all the history of those file systems as well, from the War Department decimal file system of World War II to the 1960s era-born Army File Function System, and even the ARIMS, the Army Record Information Management System, which coordinates with the GSA and the National Archives and Record Administration, the NARA, as part of the Federal Records Act of 1950. Also, Colonel Mewett emphasized proper dress and discipline to the soldiers under his command. It's said that the colonel works hard to impress these ideals in anyone who follows his lead, and insists that everyone transform themselves into a clean, mean fighting machine. Mewett is extremely orderly and organized and applies these traits away from the front lines, typically back at base. Colonel Mewett was deployed on a few missions, though, and because he was normally an admin, he would jump at the opportunity to get outside the wire. And he does so with an armor-piercing weapon in one hand and a machine gun blasting in the other. All of this work led him to be recruited to the G.I. Joe team as a strategic commander and helped flesh out the chain of command for the G.I. Joe team. Hawk and the Sergeants Major with First Sergeant Duke, Lieutenant Falcon, Captain Gridiron, and where he also learned and qualified as a driver for the Patriot armored missile launcher transport. This piece of heavy armored weaponry featured articulated tracks, a surface-to-air mortar cannon, whose toy could actually fire via a spring-action system, as well as a triple-barreled laser cannon and a quick recoil side machine gun. It's an interesting choice of names given the MIM-104 Patriot surface-to-air missile system that's been in service with the U.S. military since the early 1980s, to varying degree of success depending on who you ask. And so it's definitely of note that Colonel Mewett, our resident desk jockey, is very familiar and knows his way around the Patriot armored missile launcher transport of G.I. Joe. But anyway, Mewett kept his rank and took on the name Courage, going from Colonel Mewett to Colonel Courage with the G.I. Joe team. I mean, you have to be brave enough as a desk jockey to tackle all that paperwork. So he became Colonel Courage, and he was an active member of the team until they were mothballed in 1994 when the team was stood down and the base decommissioned. Colonel Courage did not appear in the Marvel-era ARAH comic book series. However, he did make a couple of appearances in a series called G.I. Joe America's Elite, which was published by Devil's Due Publishing. In America's Elite issue 25, Colonel Courage appeared as number 95 in a massive 236-member-strong G.I. Joe group shot for that landmark issue. And then in America's Elite issue 28, after Cobra had bought out Destro's Mars Industries and was igniting socio-political brushfires across the globe, hundreds of G.I. Joe operatives around the world were activated to quell those threats and take down those Cobra agents. And during that time, Colonel Courage was with U.S. Northcom stationed at the Pentagon along with Hacker, General Austin, and Psyche-Out as the team worked to bring the Earth back from the brink of World War III. And since then, the Colonel has remained in his assignment attached to America's ultimate weapon of democracy, the Rapid Deployment Special Counter-Terrorist Group Delta, codenamed G.I. Joe, but he does so on reserve status. Still on base or still at the Pentagon, yet ready to be called up to active duty should the need arise. But he remains an important part of JOCOM's command and control element, helping to coordinate and communicate field operations across the globe. Due to the timing of his debut, Colonel Courage was not animated at all. Neither Sunbow nor Deke had him in any of their episodes. Despite that, he did have a neon green, white, and brown figure which debuted in 1993 as part of the Battle Corps line. His Fritz-style helmet didn't come off, and many fans do cite that as a negative for this figure, but I find it humorous and ironic due to the fact that he's safely on base behind a desk in a stack of papers, not tucked in a foxhole with tracer rounds zipping by. So the idea of his helmet always being on is amusing. This figure was also armed with a J2J pineapple grenade, a Colt 45 quick-draw pistol, armor-piercing assault gun, 9mm pistol, standard-issue officer's machine gun, and even a green machete all on a bright green tree. And Mewitt's drip was on point too, with his tight four-in-hand G.I. Joe officer-issued dress tie. His packaging boasts that the armor-piercing assault gun shoots. In Brazil, Courage was released by Estrela with some notable differences. His name was in Portuguese and written as Colonel Coragem. His biggest change is that he was now a Caucasian male, and so Colonel Courage would probably have had a bigger push if the line wasn't shut down the following year. And so, to sum up Colonel Courage, we have to take a look at a quote on his file card, where he says, "I'll never surrender when wearing a tie, 'cause I can't be beat when I'm neat." Speaking of neat, this is a clean or neat place for a wrap-up on this one, my friends. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and you'll be one of the first to know when I upload videos just like this every week. I'm Jesse, this is JLS Comics, and I'll see you soon.